Amen.
We have the Holy Week. It's an occasion more and more to pray for all those who suffer like Jesus Christ because they believe in Him. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and the hour of our death. Amen. Mary, seat of wisdom,
Pray for us.
in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
So this morning, we reflect on the end of creation and the glory of God. So the third part is about meliorism, optimism, pessimism. I will not have time to study that, but at least read the summary. The summary is very precise, give you the essential, and when you study theology, probably you will come on that. Okay, so the end. So what is the end? The end, it is what we have in mind when we do something, no? Or what it is put into the thing in such a way the thing will accomplish some action to attain some goal. No? So the end is always present in every reality. If you see something, for example, you are having the class and you see some books on the table, immediately you say, you know they are table, you don't ask what is that. But you know why they are there, who put that and why they are there. So there is always a finality. Nothing exists without a finality. Why? Because every being is one, every being is true, every being is good. So if every being, by the fact it exists, it is good, it must have a reason for that goodness, no? If you eat the pie of your mother, there is a reason why the pie is good. Because there is someone who produced the pie, he used some recipe, some product, etc. So the fact a thing exists necessitates, implies necessarily an end for its existence. In that metaphysical principle, we studied that before, huh? It is a sufficient reason. Huh? Principle of sufficient reason. But now, let us go to the desk here. The desk is made with wood, okay. And when the carpenter built that desk, of course he used wood, but what he had in mind an idea. Huh? That idea of a desk, he put that into the wood. So he wanted to create a desk that means a number of a certain quantity of wood organized in such way it may be used, for example, for a student to study the form. So the form in everything, the matter is determined by the form. But that form, is it at random? Is it at random the carpenter put the form of the desk, or the form of the piano, or the form? No. That means in everything, if there is a form, there must be an end for a reason for that. An end. We don't put something for nothing. If you put salt in your soup, it's not the same thing if you put sugar in your soup. There is a goal, there is an end in that. The taste of the sugar and the taste of the salt does not give to the soup the same form. And they give not the same form. Why? Because they are not the same matter, and they are also made to provoke another kind of sensation. In fact, in everything, there is matter. I speak about material thing. In every material thing, there is a form. In that form, if it is there, there must be with a reason for that. The reason of the efficient cause, the one who does that, the carpenter, for example, or the cook. And the other reason, to attain a goal. When you put salt in the soup, it is to attain a goal, to make your soup better, and people will appreciate that, etc. So the form is the ideas of the thing. The form. In fact, when materialists say there is only matter, they forget that in matter there is ideas. No? The idea realized in the piano, the idea realized in the desk, the idea realized in the board here is not the same idea. Sometimes it's the same matter. So the idea is what we call the form. So is already in the mind of the worker. That means in everything we see, the idea of the desk, the idea of the caméscope, the idea of the quilt, the idea, any idea, the word in the producer. How is it possible that the carpenter, without any idea of a desk, produce a desk? Common sense, no? Common sense. I mean, that common sense is denied by some philosophers. They say there is no finality. Yes.
Last class, but I watched a video. You say today we will study unproduct matter, but why you skip?
Okay. The permanent matter.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I can say a word. I don't have the time to cover totally that, but I can say that the unproduced matter. Huh? Okay. Okay. There's just a little resume about that because my time is very short. Huh? Okay. Last time we spoke about the third part, the unproduced matter. Well, the unproduced matter is, unproduced matter. What is the characteristic of matter, as we see from wood? Any matter is to be indeterminate. For example, prime matter can be anything. Wood can become many different things. So can something, the question is here, can something not being determined by itself can produce something? No. No. So can matter, undetermined by itself, can produce something by itself as indeterminate? No. We produce something not as indeterminate, but as determined. That means when we are completely what we have to do. For example, a young cat cannot produce kitties. No? He must become an adult, like a man, like a flower. You know? So that means that we cannot give what we don't have. If the matter is indeterminate, it cannot produce anything. So that is opposed to materialists. They say that matter can produce even life superior to that. Okay? That is the summary of the paragraph. Huh? So conclusion, we cannot accept that matter can be the cause of of creation, and we deny, of course, by the same, all the aspect of materialism. Huh? That's because materialism is based on that. Matter is able to produce itself. To produce itself, and to not only produce itself, but produce something superior to itself. Not only matter cannot produce itself because matter by itself is indeterminate, but it cannot produce something that is superior to it. No, that is the principle. That we cannot give what we don't possess. Okay? So I summarize that. You can read that, and if you don't have the time to read the whole chapter, go to the summary. The summary of Father McCormick are very well done. They give you the essential. If you know that, you know the most important. Okay? So I come back here about matter. People speak about matter. Huh? So matter has no determination. Matter receives determination by the form. And that form is not at random in the thing. If there is a form in the thing, that means it is put there, it is injected in that matter by some maker, the maker. And the maker, when he is doing the thing, when he is putting the form in the thing, putting the idea of a desk into the wood, he has a goal. What is the goal of the maker at that time? To produce a desk. To produce a desk. What is interesting here? The form of the thing the form of the thing, the form of a desk, for example, is at the same time the end of the maker. The form of the thing is the end of the maker, the first end. That means that when the maker produces a chair, before beginning to work on the wood, he must have the idea of a chair, and he must will to produce a chair. So the form and the end are connected. So I go back to the 4 causes of Aristotle. You remember the intrinsic causes and the extrinsic causes. Intrinsic causes, matter and determine, and for determining. Extrinsic causes, the efficient cause, the worker, the maker, and final cause, the goal, the purpose. And now, but the inefficient cause will distinguish the principle and the instrumental, the tool. Okay. And we can add also another one, we call it the model. No? But for the moment, and if you go to the maker, when the maker is doing something, he chooses an instrument to work, he has to take a form and to put that in the thing. Therefore, the first end, and the first end of his work is to put the form in the thing. That means in everything there must be a finality, or there is a finality. Because if there is a form, for example, the form of the piano is not the same as the desk. Why? Because the idea of the piano is to produce music. The idea of a desk is to help somebody to study, to write. You know? So and that is at the beginning. When the thing is made, the being is made, at the same time, in the being there is something true. What that's true is the form. And the intelligibility, what gives the intelligibility to a thing? It is its form. So the form is linked with the end. The form is linked with the end, the end, final end. That means every time you want to do something, at the same time, the thing you want to do something, it's also the final goal, the end of your action. Suppose you prepare a meal, or you use dough to prepare a dough, a pie. Okay, with cinnamon, lemon, etc. Okay, so you have an idea, a form in mind. And when you begin to cook, what do you want to do? You want to create a pie with the form you have in your head. So the form you have in your head, at the beginning, is the end what you will have. No? The end is at the same time, at the beginning, in the mind of the cook, and in the end, when the pie is finished. That means there is a relation, we cannot separate that, a relation between the form and what we want to do, and the goal, or the end, the finality in the maker. It's common sense. But that has very big, important consequences. That means every time there is a form, there must be a goal in the mind of the maker. Otherwise, there is no reason why the thing exists, no? As soon as a being exists, that being is intelligible, is true, and that being is good, is desirable. And that means there is a form known by the intellect, and a form able to move a will. And that form is in the mind of the maker who did that. here I have a cap. It's not a sock, it's not a pan, it is a hat. It's not, okay? Well, so you know what, when the man who did that, or the women, I don't know, what they did, they, you know, interesting to see what I want to do, to put, we call that also a form. So the idea of to make a cap, it was at the beginning, before even she began to cut the cloth. And so the finality, the end is at the beginning. You here, 1 year ago, 2 years ago maybe, or 6 months ago, you have an idea to become a student in philosophy. Okay? So you have that idea, you put that into practice, you take the bus, the plane, you came here, etc. And now you are here in class. If you are here in class, it is because at the beginning, already, you had the idea of what you wanted to become, no? Okay? So, that means there is no, it is impossible that there be some random, some chance in creation. Even in everything existing, there must be a sufficient reason. And that sufficient reason is at the beginning in the mind of the maker. It is realized in the thing at the end. But I can know the mind of the maker, not at the beginning, I know from the thing. I know, for example, from that app here, that a day, somewhere in Bangladesh or Mexico, somebody work on that to make a hat, not to make a shoe. No? Okay? Oh, I go to the text, I continue. So there is an ultimate reference to mind. That means every time we think about finality, about form, we necessarily imply an intelligent being, a mind. We cannot put into matter something if there is not some organizer, some will. Not intelligence, not only intelligence, but also will. Because here we are not only in the domain of knowledge, we are in the domain of making something. So if we make something, we must have also a will. It is, but the form cannot be into the matter without an act of the will of the maker. So if the carpenter did not will to make a desk, the desk will not exist. He will to take the idea of desk and to put that into the wood to obtain the desk. That is the fruit of his intellect and the fruit of his will. That means every effect is the fruit of some intellect and some will. Okay? So the final cause is the idea pre-existing in the mind and moving the will to give it existence in the reality. So that is the final cause. So the final cause is excessively important. And you know, some philosophers deny final causality. They don't want to speak about that, because if they speak about that, they will be obliged to recognize something that will bother them, the expense of God, of course. So that finality is important. Why? Because finality is at the beginning, finality is at the end, and finality is constantly present during the execution of that. When you go to New York, the finality is to go to New York. You have the idea to going to New York here, but you are in Cromwell. You have many actions. You will put all those actions using your intellect and your mind and your will to arrive to New York. New York is the end, but the end is at the beginning. It's paradoxal to say that, but we cannot say otherwise. The finality is not only when the thing is completed, finished. The finality is already at the beginning. Otherwise, there will be no action. Yes?
Finality and final cause are the same thing?
Yeah, finality is the quality of the finality. Okay. Now, application to the universe. So that is what we study here. It's a repetition of metaphysics, if you want. Huh? Now, let us apply that to the universe. Because the cause here is the creation, the end of creation, the end of the universe. Huh? So, the universe is intelligible by the fact it exists. By the fact it exists, it is intelligible. As soon as a being is a being, it is true. That means it is intelligible. It can be known by an intellect. What is that?
Oh, I'm sorry. My bad, Father.
What's good? I thought it's from Mr. Menard working now.
No, I'm sorry. Yeah.
And we can search for the form that gives it intelligibility. So we know the universe. To understand the thing, we must know the form of the thing. What is the idea in the thing? Well, we studied that in logic. It is, we call the definition. Definition of the thing. But not only to know the form, to know the idea, we have also to try to link that with the end, the finality or the end of the thing. So the universe is intelligible by the fact it exists, and we can search for the form or the end. Also, the form is linked with the end. So never forget that. The form is linked with the end. I give you a simple example. When God created man, He created man intelligent. Immediately, you can know. Because God created man intelligent and free, then immediately you can see for what end to use his intelligence and his freedom to act morally, you know. So when you know the form of a thing, you can discover the end, and you cannot find the end without knowing what is the thing itself. You know, to combat a disease, we must know first what is the thing. Because knowing the thing, we can know the consequences or the finality of that thing. Okay? So, from existence of the universe to the discovery of the end of the universe. So we start from the fact the universe exists. And we attain to the discovery of the end. What is the end of the universe? Why? Because the end, it is what gives to the universe its intelligibility. When you want to understand something completely, it's not enough to know what it is made. It is to know what is the purpose of that. You go in a store with many instruments, many tools. You know they're made with wood, with iron, with steel, aluminum. But what is the question most of the time? Why? What is the purpose of that? Okay, it's good for me, I will buy that, you know. So they try to make you aware that the utility of the thing, the end of the thing, is convenient for you. So we have the meaning of the thing, not only knowing what is the thing, but more than that, knowing what is the purpose of the thing. The description of a thing is not sufficient. We have to know, for example, you have a murder, a person is dead, we can describe that, you know, but that is not satisfying for the detective. The detective is searching for the motive, the purpose. Why? Because otherwise the act is irrational. As long as we don't know the purpose of an action, for us the act seems irrational. A good example happened with the plane crash recently, no? With 150 passengers. We know what happened. What everybody is searching for, the purpose, the motive, the end. What was the end of that? In fact, knowing the end, we explain the accident. If we don't know the end, we cannot explain the accident. So now it is to research the motive of the action of the co-pilot. For example, okay, I explain that. So every efficient cause acts for an end. Nothing is at random. I already explained that. So change is only accidental for us. In fact, change in itself is unintelligible. Chance cannot be explained. If you can explain chance, is no more chance. If you go to casino on Huntsville here or Connecticut, and you win 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times in the same afternoon, be sure you will not go out easily. Because it's not normal that the chance married you. Chance is irrational. Okay? In fact, chance is the absence of finality. The apparent absence of finality. Okay? In the universe, we see order. But when we contemplate, we study astronomy, we study biology, we study physics, chemistry, etc., we discover that there is a uniformity in the world. There are laws. There is an order. If there is an order in the world, if there is some intelligibility in the world, what is linked with that? It is there must be a finality. The world is not at random. The world is not expanding without any finality. There is a sufficient reason for its existence, a sufficient reason for its expansion. We don't know, but we are searching. That is the work of science. Science tries to discover, not to create, to discover what is already there. What are the laws of that explain the order in the world, not the finality yet, because science cannot go to the finality. But science can prove that there is an order. The marvel of science, physics, for example, for me, is to be able to take out of that billion of experiences and express that in one formula. In one formula, explain billion of things. Okay? Like in mathematics, one formula express in infinitely the law of the rule, for example, the surface of a triangle. So surface equal h bar b. That is 4 billion and billion and billion. It is eternal. that is when we discover that in nature some uniformity, may we say somebody should be an organizer, intelligent. Okay? But there is an objection to that, is Descartes. Descartes, you see, we should not search for the final cause, but because if we search the final cause, we are pretending to enter the mind of the Creator, the mind of God. So don't search for final cause, because if you do that, it is a kind of blasphemy, if you want. It is no, we cannot enter the mind of God. In fact, of course, we never arrive to the full knowledge of the final cause. We cannot explain everything clearly, but we can explain something. It is not because I don't know all mathematics that I cannot make an addition of 5 plus 4 equals 9. To know is not to know the totality. It's sufficient for a cook to know how to produce something. It's not necessary to know exactly all the recipes existing to prepare a good pie. It's sufficient to know someone, little by little, to progress. No? So no perfect knowledge of the universe. So how we can, first, we know things from their activities. The activities of nature. So we know a bird is able to fly when we see him flying. No? I can know that you are a pianist. Suppose you are, I am a pastor in a parish, and my old organist passed away. I need a new organist. So 3 men appear to my rectory. What I will do? You say, I am an organist, I am an organist. What I will do? I will go to the organ. I say, okay, play. Or I will ask my choir master, I will say, okay, test that guy with your choir, if he can accompany or not your choir, you know. So I know the nature of the thing, or the possibility of the thing from their activities, okay? So I know from the activity of the world, what is the nature of the thing. So the knowledge of nature. So from the activities of nature, I arrive to a knowledge of what is nature. And the nature of a thing, what is the definition of the nature? You remember that in logic? We saw that it is the essence as principle of activities. Principle of activities. So I start from the activities to know the nature. From the activity. Why? Because the nature is the principle of the activity. I know you speak English when I listen to you in English. No? Okay? Now, when I have the knowledge of the nature of a thing, I try to discover what is the thing. You remember in logic? It is to discover the definition of the thing. Huh? It is to know what is the thing, what the constituent of the thing. And in fact, I try to know the idea of the thing. Huh? What is the thing? Or the form of the thing. During England, in some parishes, they had a kind of instrument with wood. We call it in French a clapet. And they use that as sang to clack a clack, clack a clack, clack a clack. Instead of ding, 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 ding. Okay? Well, it's not beautiful, but anyway, for music, it's horrible. But you have to make penance for the musical ears. Okay, but imagine you visit the sacristy, you find that piece of wood, you see. It's clack, 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 clack. You play with that, children have fun with that. Right? And finally, you discover, what is that? Through the activity, you find what it. So you arrive to see if the carpenter put something, some idea here. So what is the idea? The idea of a clapper is just to take the place of a bell and to indicate to people what we have to do. So in everything, we have to find the idea. In logic, we saw that is simple apprehension. We try to define the thing. And so through, and that idea, how it is expressed. So the idea expresses the final cause. Or, if you want, expresses the end of itself. No? So I know the idea, the form expressed here. No? So it is the way we have to study the universe. We study the universe, we see the activity in the universe, in the nature. We have a certain idea of nature. We discover that in nature there is some order, etc. And we arrive to discover there must be a finality. If there is order, form, order, because to give order to the thing is to give form to the thing. If there is order, there must be an end. I mean, if there is an end, I should continue, there must be an intelligent mind. Intelligent mind. Cause. Intelligent cause. It is the proof when we study the designer. In fact, it is the proof of the desire. Okay? So I know who, for example, I know who is a musician when I see him playing the music. I know how a student understands when the teacher sees the answer. How I can know the answer, you understand something if you only through question and answer. I have no thermometer to measure. So we can attend the end of the universe, not one by one, not thing by thing, but as a whole. You buy a car, and you want to take care of your car. I want to use it for as long as I can because I am a poor priest. Okay, so are you obliged to know exactly all the part of the car and all the functioning of the part and all the finality of the part? No. You know the car as a whole, no? And you know what is the end of the car as a whole? Yes. It's to travel, it's not to cook. So, common sense, no? So it's not necessary in the universe to know everything, but to know the finality of the universe as a whole. As a whole. It's not necessary to know exactly the finality of every animal, of every planet, of every disease. No. But as a whole, like my car, I have a notion of finality. It's the same thing with regard of the... So the end is that on account of which something is done. That the reason is always a good reason. A good, not a good reason, a good. That means when I want some being, I desire some being, I can desire it only on some aspect of good. That we see that in metaphysics. So, because only the good can have the power to move the will. Don't forget here, we are not only on the level of the intellect, we are on the level of the will also. Because the finality is not only in the intellect, the finality is moving the will. Because if we are not moving the will, nothing will be executed. So we can say the end is the good, moving the will. So the end is the good, moving the will. Alors, what kind of end? We distinguish intrinsic ends and extrinsic ends. So intrinsic and extrinsic. So intrinsic end is the end of the work. The end of the work. Well, we see that in ethics, also when you study ethics. For example, what is the intrinsic end of the carpenter is to make a desk, to put the form of the desk into the wood. It is the idea. In fact, it is the idea. The form realized. It is what the agent, efficient agent, put in the thing. The first end, the first end. The extra, in Latin, those are like Latin, it is called finis operis. Finis operis. The end of the work. The end of the work. Finis operis. But the carpenter, when he did that desk, did only the end, okay, I want to build a desk, only for that. No. He has a wife, he has children, he has to pay a rent, he has to pay his car, so he wants a salary, he wants some money, you know. So he had another intention, he has another goal, and that's because the end of the agent or the worker. in Latin, finis operantis. The end of the one who is working, operantis. The end of the worker. So it is a good, it is a good added to the work, added to the work. Not only he wills to produce the desk, but at the same time he wants to produce some money to feed his children, to send his children to all the apostles. No? I have a carpenter in one of my class. Philosophy of God is a carpenter. Okay. So since it is something external to the work, but attached to the work, but attached from outside. It is not in the work. It is not necessary to have a salary to make a desk. A monk, for example, can make a desk. There is some monk, they announce on the internet, they make gasket. Gasket is
casket, yeah.
Gasket, a tomb. You can choose your tomb. You can use their email. It's useful, maybe. Okay, so when they do that for the glory of God, of course. They don't need, of course. Anyway, even there, the monks, what it is producing a tomb, a casket, is also making for helping his monastery, is also for the love of God, by obedience, because he likes that, you know. Instead of making a chair, he makes tomb. You know? He likes that, you know. Everybody, someone they like to work with flowers, but he likes to work with tombs. Everyone, we can discuss about the taste. It's the reason why in every country we have undertakers. We have men who take care of that. It's not the best. For them, it's the best. Yes. They spend their life in that. You know. Okay. So the possibility now to know the intrinsic ends, it is only by studying the work itself. Can you the end from the mind of the carpenter? Can you enter the mind of the carpenter? No. So you can know only the using the work, doing it inside of the intrinsic, and you cannot know directly the extrinsic end. If the carpenter says to you, oh, you know, I have 4 children, I work hard because I have to feed them, but that you know, because he told you, but you cannot enter. Okay, now we have to apply that to consequently, we can know the end of the universe, the end of the universe, without knowing everything, without knowing even we know the intrinsic, if we can know the work, we can know the laws of nature, the law of physics, the law of biology, okay, without knowing the end of the worker. Who is the worker? The creator, you know. You see the analogy. I cannot know the mind of the carpenter when he did that desk. Can I know the mind of God when he created the world? No. But I can know here the work. That is the goal of science. Science is to know the work. I can know the universe on that aspect, but I cannot know the reason why the world exists. I know there must be a reason for that. They cannot enter. Even today, scientists cannot explain everything. They cannot explain everything. But they know there is something, but they cannot. So the same for us. We know the work, we know the world. It is the creation of God, but we cannot know the intention of God, the mind of God. Okay? That is the message here. To find the intrinsic of the universe, we should be able to investigate the mind of God. That means we should be God Only God himself can explain to us why he created something. But we can know the finality of the thing from the thing itself. It's not necessary to be God to know that a dog is a good companion and a good guardian, and a cat is a good mouse hunter. So it's not necessary to have a revelation. I know that from the activity of the dog and the activity of the cat. But the finality, the ultimate finality of that, when God created that, I don't know. Okay, but we have to reflect now on that. So the ends, at the end as cause, we study that. The final cause. So that the final cause is what we are, the reason why we do something. And we saw that the end, we saw that here at the end, and the form and the end are together. But the end is a final cause. It is a cause. Even if the end is at the beginning, at the end, the end is at the end. You know, imagine you watch a movie. I remember when I was young, I was always sad because when I went to a movie, because the last, it was the end. Oh, finish. You have to go back to the reality. Imagine you begin the movie, in the first picture is the end. In fact, it's true. The end is at the beginning. But you say the end, but I will not tell you. You know, in my family, I have an aunt, a sister of my mother, and she was a bachelor, and she liked to read novels. Maybe I told that to you. No. She liked to read novels, and she liked to read only good novels, with a nice end, you know. So what she did, she read the last chapter first. she read the last chapter, and if the chapter ends well, as a good, she read the whole novel. If that chapter finished a bad way, no. So, but you know, the end is at the beginning, no? Except for us, I have to go to the end of the book. But the one who wrote the book, you know, at the end, at the beginning, you know the end. He prepared the end, the end. Who is in the thriller? It is very well prepared. We think that guy is the fact is not him, it's another one. Most of the time, it's the one who we think the less is the criminal. Okay. So the effect is what the end causes. So the work, what is produced, is what the end causes. So the end is really a cause. So the end may cause the action. In fact, if you are here, it is because the end moves you. The finis operis. There is an end. For example, there is an end when you study. The end of studying is to understand. But there is another end, maybe, to become a priest, or to become a superior general of the sister of the cross, or I don't know. You have an end, no? At least to go to heaven, to discover the truth. We cannot act without sin, and at least by obedience. By obedience. By obedience is an end also. Okay? So the end causes the effect when the goodness of the end, what I want to do, for example, a good task, moves the will of the agent to do. So what makes the agent to do? It is the goodness of the end. Important, huh? The goodness of the end moves the will of the agent to do. The goodness of the end. Being true good. It is the goodness of the end, and the goodness that moves the will. Otherwise you will not move. If it was, it's the reason why in moral, in ethics, we must never do something intrinsically immoral. Because we must not will something which is evil. Huh? Okay? Not only the good. For the sake of obtaining the good. Okay. So the end may be the only cause of the effect for us. Normally, we don't have only one end. We don't have only the one of the end of the worker. The work, excuse me, the end of the work. We have also the end of the worker. That means that not only we want the good of the thing, when the carpenter wants to do something, he does not want something in itself, he wants something outside of himself. But not only we want something, a good thing outside of ourselves, but we want something for our good also. Not only for the good of the thing, the good of the thing, made the thing, but we also want for our good, our own goodness, etc. If you act like that to God, when God creates, works, I dare to use the word works because in the Bible we use that. God works 6 days. So God created the world, okay? The world. When He created the world, He wills the good of the thing, no? Okay? Can He will something coming from the thing to Himself? Some good from the thing? No. The carpenter will obtain something. God, when He creates only for the good of the work, of the thing. He cannot receive. So, when the analogy of finis operis, finis operantis, must be very distinguished between God and man. In God, in man, we do something outside for the good of the thing, of course. We want to make a good desk, very useful. But at the same time, we want to receive something from the desk, from the making of the desk. God will the good of the thing, the existence of the thing, that is the good, the first good of the thing is to exist. But can you receive something from the thing? No. So the finis operis, the end of the worker for God, cannot be in that direction. If there is a direction, it's only in the other direction. God cannot receive from His creature. He can receive nothing. Right? Because He is perfect. So, when He creates something, it's totally for the good of the thing, without receiving nothing from the thing. It is what we are knowing to try to, not to understand, but to go deeper. So in man, the goodness of the effect, influence the will of the man. The goodness of the desk influence the carpenter. The goodness of the pie influence the cook. In God, the goodness of the effect cannot influence the will of God. God does not do something to receive something from the thing He does. No. He cannot. Why? He is pure act. Pure act. No? So in the case of God, the goodness of the effect is only the end, and does not influence God. So the goodness of the effect. God creates things only for first goodness of the effect. The goodness. When God creates something it is for the goodness of man. It is by pure love. A love giving everything without receiving nothing. God cannot receive. If He is complete, He is infinitely perfect, totally independent from His creature, can He receive something from His creature? Okay? So that's the problem of glory. We arrive to that. So in God, the end may be the only cause of the effect produced. St. Thomas, right in the text you have, makes the world not of desire of the end, but out of love of the end. God created the world out of love of the end. Out of love. Pure love, pure gratuity. Huh? But, okay. So, second paragraph. What is the end of the universe now? So, only the God's goodness, the goodness of God, and the goodness of God can be the end of the universe. God will, the will of God is supremely independent. We saw that. God depends on nothing. He's completely ascetic, totally disinterested. So when God created the world, He is totally disinterested. He has no self-interest. Pure gift of love. It's difficult for us because we are always finis operantis. We want to receive something, at least a smile or a thank you. My mother say thank you. Okay? So the end of creation must be the goodness of God in some way, communicated to other beings. So it is the goodness and the goodness of God, the communicated to other beings and communicated. So that's the end, the end of creation. It must be the goodness of God communicated to created. It is by pure love. Pure love. Okay. So the end, but in that communication, of course, there are degrees. You have some being they participate only because they exist as matter, like a stone, a diamond. Those that participate like an animal, flower, or sentient, and some participate in a special way, highest way, which is the intellect. And in fact, among the hierarchy of being, who can be aware of the finality of the world, who can ask the question of that? Only man. So when we speak about the end of the universe, we will be related especially with man. So the purpose, so men participate in divine goodness, thus the purpose will, with reference to the goodness of God, is accomplished through the created universe. That is, the purpose is, we call the external glory of God. That purpose, why God created the world? For external glory. So we have to explain, I have 15 minutes to explain the external glory of God. External glory. First, God is not selfish. He's totally gift. So what is the glory? St. Thomas gives a definition. He says, the four elements, everyone is important. It is the knowledge of excellence with esteem and praise of it. Well, first, knowledge. I must know. If I don't know, only men can know. So only men can speak, glorify God. Only men. Okay. Of course, your cat manifests God also. He does not know. Okay. So objective glory of God is the excellence. Why? Because there is an intrinsic worth. You know, when I congratulate someone because there must be a value, a reason, no? When you call it, you meet your uncle, he is married for 50 years. 50 years, I was faithful to his wife to him. you congratulate. Why? Because there is a value there. A worth is worth. Huh? Okay. And with esteem, to like, to love, to like, to appreciate, and to praise, to applaud, to offer flowers, etc. So subjective or formal, so that is the objective. The objective is the value, the excellence. That is the objective glory. It is beautiful. For example, what is the glory of a mother?
Child.
The child. Our children. That is glory of the mother. You know. So there is something objective in every glory. There is nothing glorify if there is not some value, objective. But there is also a subjective. Why subjective? Because there must be a subject, a man, subject, I, who is able to esteem, to know, to esteem, and to praise. So there is, we know, we esteem, and we praise. And I will say that applied to an object outside of you, but applied also to yourself. You must know yourself. You must love yourself, and you must help yourself. The first commandment, love your God with all your heart, and love your neighbor as yourself. Okay? So that is, we call also the formal internal or formal intrinsic glory, the self-esteem, or the esteem of the thing, you know, as esteem. Appreciation, esteem, okay? So one's own knowledge of one's God excellence. We know, I esteem, I appreciate the excellence of God because I know. So in the glory there is 4 elements. Something solid. In Hebrew it is kabod. The glory of God, the kabod of God. That means something very heavy. It is heavy, you know. You have one cubic feet of plastic and 1 cubic feet of gold. It's not the same, huh? The value depends on what is heavy, of course. It's not because a man is heavy, is to be glorified. Huh? Not the same thing. But in the case of the glory of God or the glory of man, we cannot applaud a man, we cannot congratulate a person if there is no solid reason for that. No kabod, no worth, no value. No value. So we know the value of the person and we esteem it and we congratulate it, we praise it. That's it. So the external glory of God is, for example, here God knows himself. God knows himself. He knows himself. He esteems himself perfectly because he has. What is the most valuable object for God to love himself is himself. So there is an internal glory of God. God knows himself very well. Knowing himself very well, loving himself infinitely, he is infinitely humble. That is internal glory of God. God does not need our external glory because he is perfectly happy, complete, glorified by his own existence. But he wants that we share in his glory by knowing his value. By knowing, if we know his value through his creation. And that is the way we glorify God. So creature cannot give to God an internal glory. God has his internal glory. We can add nothing to the internal glory. For example, a teacher gives is teaching and the student pass their exam. Suppose the class, everybody has an A, you say, oh, and that teacher is invited, as we saw on television, is the teacher of the United States. does that glorification change the knowledge of the teacher? The teacher gives his name knowledge. But there is something worthy, something worthy. It is not affected his own teaching, is affected, but the glory is in the effects. God is glorified in the effects. Of course, he can receive nothing from the effects. But his glory is to share his perfection with his creature. That is the glory of God. Remember Saint Irenaeus, where he said, the glory of God is man. That means God, his glory is complete, internally complete. We can add nothing. But his glory, external glory, in fact, it is an act of love to produce an effect totally free. In that effect totally free, made by love, which is the world, which is you, which is me, that effect is the external glory of God. So the difference between your cat and you can know that, and your cat not know. But your cat expressed the glory of God, expressed it, but without knowing. We call that fundamental glory. He gave a fundamental glory. Only man can give a formal glory. The man can use his mind to glorify God because he knows the value and esteem, and he praises it. You know? But that glory of outside of God, in fact, it is a gift. The glory, external glory of God is an act of love. The external glory of God is the existence of the world, the existence of the universe. Okay? Okay, therefore, the non-intelligent or animal or being cannot know the purpose, but they fulfill the purpose. They contribute to the glory of God without knowing. But God contributes to the glory, external glory of God by knowing. By knowing. In fact, when he glorifies God, he is the first who take benefit of that glorification of God. The glory of God is man. And man, by the fact he exists, by the fact he is intelligent, by the fact he is free, by the fact he is the image of God, is the being glorifying God, is the glory of God. By only the fact we exist as human beings, we are the external glory of God. But we have the responsibility to know that, and also to discover in our older creature, like our cat and dog and flowers, etc., the glory of God. So the glory of God and the good of creature are two sides of the same reality. When God, the external glory of God, it is our existence. We exist. We are the living glory of God. Okay? So every creature, every every creature is his own perfection. Okay, what is the good of every creature? The first good, it is to be perfect as in my species. To be perfect as a cat, to be perfect as a man. So the more creature is perfect, the more it gives glory to God. We give glory to God by being first. By being a man, by being a cat, we glorify God. But in the case of man, and we enjoy also, in the case of man, exercise his highest faculty of intelligence and will, he gives to God a glory, but in the highest manner. Not only he is the glory of God, but he knows he is the glory of God. You know, like a child who at a certain time he does not realize he is the son of the king. At the age of 5, he suddenly, like Louis the 14th, he realized that he was a king. You know, so he was already the glory as a king, but he was aware of that. So in fact, to glorify God, what is that? It is to be aware of what we are. like a child must be aware of what he is. Yeah. So God is willing his own glory, is willing the good of the creature. In St. Thomas, a good text, you can read that. God intends only to communicate his perfection. He alone is the most liberal giver love, because he acts not for his own perfection, but only for his own goodness. So the goodness of God is creative. The love of God is creative. And the glory of God is manifested in his effects. But God does not depend on his effects. That's the big difference between us. So God communicates his perfection. He communicates. So at the end, take the last page of the para. I don't know which page it is. You have the synthesis. And the synthesis on page
13.
13. Okay, go page 13. The synthesis. That I encourage you to review slowly the class, read the text, because it's kind of meditation. The idea, there are a lot of repetition in that class. But here you have the synthesis. The perfection communicated by God and the perfection received by the creature is one thing. The perfection, when God created the thing, it is at the same time the perfection we are. But from one side, on the side of God, the perfection communicated by God is the glory of God. And from the side of creature, our side, the perfection communicated by God to us is the good of his creature. So in the same act of glorifying himself, loving his own goodness, God gave us our existence. And in his internal glory, his eternal happiness is communicated his own, a part of that, a share in that happiness, in that perfection, in this glory. So by our being, the fact we live in by our action also, especially through our intellect and our will, we glorify God. So the primary end of the creation is the glory of God, but the primary object of the will of God is his own goodness. God will first his own goodness. But the secondary object of the creation, why God? So God created the world for himself, for his goodness, because he is pure love. But secondary is the good of creature. What is the first good of creatures? To exist. And for men to be intelligent. And because the God of creature is included, the good of creature is included in the end, that is primary. So try to represent, if you want, if you can, to synthesize all those things. They go here. So essentially, everything is here. The glory of God is knowledge. Is the knowledge of the value, is infinite value, with esteem, love himself, and praise himself as a total glory. God does not need somebody to say, oh, you are holy. No, he knows he is holy from all eternity. But it is necessary for us to say he is holy, because it is for our good. In the measure we share, we praise God, and we esteem him, and we are the beneficiary of that. So here, you know, that I give you a new dimension of prayer. And when you are attentive to that, and you glorify God, you contemplate God, that comes to you. You cannot attain him. Of course, he knows that, but that does not change his value. If you want your praise, add nothing to his worth. Like a child, he said to his teacher, you know, teacher, 5 plus 2 equals 7. When he said that, he adds nothing to the knowledge of the teacher, but he adds something to his knowledge. You understand, huh? Or subject of meditation. Try to meditate that. It is really a meditation.